Good evening and welcome. I'm Illiad. I'm one of the faculty members in Embodying the Book. Embodying the Book wants to also welcome Rebecca Chamberlain's program here, and anybody not connected to either of those programs, really happy to have you here tonight also. We feel really lucky to have this performance of an Iliad here for our delectation and delight. Please silence your cell phones right now. Any other electronic devices that might possibly make noise. There are 4 exits to this theater. There are 2 there and 2 through these exit signs on the side. This show is 90 minutes without an intermission. So if you have to leave the theater, please do so as discreetly and quietly as possible. Thank you. Welcome to an Iliad.
Menin, aere thea peleadio agileos, ulomenen hemuri achaiois, alge etheke polas, diphthimus psuchas aidi, proiapsen eroon. Oh, sorry. Back then, I could sing it. For days and nights, on and on, every battle, every old digression, I would sing and sing. In Mycenae once, I sang for a year. You don't believe me? In Babylon, I sang it differently, but the crowd still came. In Alexandria, I started to notice a few empty seats, but I still sang it. Shorter, though, 3 or 4 days. You know where it went down really well? Gaul. Something about those people. They had a real taste for it. Of course, they were hard to control. They used to get up on the tables and sing along. They threatened to take the whole thing over. Went outside screaming and building fires. It was terrible. Every time I sing this song, I hope it's the last time. Oh. Sing to me now, oh, you muses. In the halls of Olympus, you are goddesses. You are everywhere. You know everything. All we hear is the distant ring of glory. Sing. You know, in the old days, we'd be in a tavern or a bar, I guess you would say. It was so much easier to talk about these horrors in a bar. This is the story of the Trojan War and two great fighters, Achilles and Hector. Muses? Menin, aede thea peliadio Achilleus, ulominen. Rage. Goddess, sing the rage of Peleus' son Achilles. Murderous, doomed, that cost the Achaeans countless losses, hurling down to the house of death so many sturdy souls, great warriors' souls, but making their bodies carrion, feasts for the dogs and birds. What drove them to fight with such a fury? Well, the gods, of course. Pride, honor, jealousy, Aphrodite, some game or other, an apple. Helen being more beautiful than somebody, it doesn't matter. The point is, Helen's been stolen, and the Greeks have to get her back. It's always something, isn't it? But it's a good story. I remember a lot of it. I remember a lot of it. Imagine a beach. It's rocky and jagged. About a mile and a half inland, imagine a city with great ramparts protecting it. This city was called Troy. And from the walls of this city, Hector can see the water down by the beach. And in that water, there are hundreds of ships. It is crowded with all kinds of Greek ships. This is where my story takes place. Ages ago. Who were the captains of those Greek ships? Who were the captains of Achaea? The massive troops I could never tally. I could if I had 10 tongues in 10 mouths. Yes, and if I had a heart made of me, bronze. Yes, a heart made of me, bronze. And if I could remember the names, if I could actually remember everyone. Sing in memory all who gathered under Troy. The list of ships, the numbers of men in those ships. Here goes. First came the Boeotian units, led by Leitus and Peneleos. Arcesilaus, Prothorionor, and Clonius shared command of the armed men who lived round Hieria and rocky Aulis, and Thespia, and Graea, the dancing rings of Mycalessus, men who lived around Harma, Elysion, Erythri, and Cope, Eutresis, and Thisbe, thronged with doves. It's coming back to me, yes. Fighters from Heliartus and Coronea and deep in meadows, and men who held Plataea but lived in Glesis, Men who held the rough-hewn gates of lower Thebes, Onchestus the Holy, Poseidon's sun-filled grove, men from the town of Arne, green with vineyards, and oh, right. You don't know these places. And unless you're old enough to remember your war in Vietnam, you don't know about registration or the draft, or how if your name was called up, you had to go. But these names mean something to me. And I knew these boys. I mean, the point is, on all of these ships are boys who've been called up from every small town in Ohio, from farmlands and fishing villages. There are soldiers from Nebraska and South Dakota. There are twangy boys from Memphis. There are soldiers from San Diego and Palo Alto and Berkeley and Antelope Valley. I mean, you can imagine. There are soldiers from Kansas, from Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, there are soldiers from Gresham and Airway Heights and Onalaska and Whidbey Island. There are soldiers from Evanston, Illinois, and Springfield, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Buffalo, New York, and Cooperstown, New York, and Brooklyn, and Queens, and Staten Island, and the Bronx, and the South Bronx. There are soldiers from Florida, from the Panhandle with its snake charmers and evangelists, from the Okeechobee. You have soldiers from Miami who speak Spanish, and Miami who speak French, Miami who speak English. You have Puerto Rican soldiers, and soldiers from Texas, from the Flatlands, from Houston, and Dallas, and Plano, and soldiers from Tennessee, from western Tennessee, the mountains in West Virginia, the mountains in western Washington, from Flint, Michigan, and Benton Harbor, and the Thumb, and Escanaba. I mean, that's what I mean. You get it? Known and unknown. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of men emptied out of their homelands. I mean, think of these men. Oh, and these ships. I mean, so many ships. It was like 50, 40, 80, 100, Agamemnon, and 60, 30, 20, Odysseus, and 50, 80, 25, Achilles, and 20, 30. I mean, these are ships I'm counting, not men, like 50, 80, Nestor, that's hundreds and hundreds of ships, and 120 men on each ship. I mean, it's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Greek men. And do you see? So here we are. 9 years. Oh, please, Muses, don't make me do this alone. 9 years. Fighting off and on, fighting to the wall and back, and Greeks win one day and Trojans win the next, like a game of tug of war. Nothing to show for it but poverty and loneliness and exhaustion. I mean, what was it like? What was it like? It was pain. It was awful. It was hot. I mean, how about that? It was hot. I mean, how do I 9 years? So you left home and your baby is 1, and you come back and your baby is 10. And you left home and your baby is 1. And you come back and your baby is dead. And you come back and your wife is dead. And you come back and your wife is old. And you come back and your wife has had 3 affairs and 2 more kids. And, hi, honey, don't get mad, but, or you come back and the farm is ruined. Or there's been a war, and you're not Greek anymore. You're Diocletian or whatever it is. You're Spartan. They came and took over while you were hanging out at Troy, and you have no title to your land anymore. Oh, and your father died while you were gone. And the whole socks and sandals thing, we stopped wearing like that a long time ago. I mean, you can imagine after 9 years of this. I mean, they're tired. They want to go home. They've forgotten why they're fighting. But what humiliation it would be to hold out so long and sail home empty-handed. I mean, how do you know when you've won? Somebody said, how do you ask someone to be the last person to die for a losing cause? And I'm paraphrasing here, but the point is, you're standing in the checkout line at Ralph's Thriftway, and you've been there for 20 minutes, and the other line's moving faster. Do you switch lines now? No, goddammit! I'm gonna wait in this line. I've been waiting here 20 minutes. I don't care if I wait. And I'm not leaving, because otherwise I've wasted my time. Courage, my friends. Hold out a little longer. Now, all this time, of course, the gods are watching, up on Mount Olympus. And some cheer on the Greeks, Achilles, 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 and some cheer on the Trojans like, Hector, Hector, like sports fans. And really, back then, this was their only entertainment. They were addicted to it. Well, they couldn't let it stop. So, they would swoop down and they'd poke and they'd prod and they'd whisper just to make sure that the battles kept raging. Ah, the old gods. Do you remember Zeus and his wife, Hera? Athena? Apollo? Aphrodite? Well, they haven't been around. Where do the old gods go? Isn't that a song? Where do the old gods go when they die? I don't know. Where do the old gods go? Well, there's one in the gin bottle. And there's one in the vodka bottle. Spirits. And Athena's in the tequila bottle. Athena tequila. The gods never die. They change. They burrow into us. They become us. They become our impulses. Lust? Aphrodite. Mischief? Hermes. A good idea? Athena. Athena tequila. A very good idea. Oh, the things that gods could do to us. Uses. So, 9 years in, and we're all camped out on this beach. Bad enough. But now it's nighttime, and the men are suddenly starting to get very sick. One minute they're polishing their boots, the next minute they're choking in black blood. Down the beach there's a huge bonfire burning. Only the fire's not wood, it's corpses. They're burning the corpses of men and dogs and mules, and they've all been infected by plague. What is going on? I'll tell you. We've angered the gods. Our leader, our commander, Agamemnon, has taken as the spoils of war this girl. And she happens to be the daughter of a priest of Apollo. The old man comes to Agamemnon with a cart piled high. Please, take these riches, this ransom, just give me back my daughter. But Agamemnon says no. The priest offers to pray for the Greeks if he'll give him his daughter back. But Agamemnon says no. All the commanders come to Agamemnon and they beg him to give her back. Agamemnon says no. The priest is heartsick. He goes to Apollo, and Apollo gets mad. Have you ever seen an angry god? Apollo takes these arrows, and he coats the tip with sickness, with plague, nasty stuff. The arrows clanged at his back as the god quaked with rage. Over against the ships, he drops to one knee, let fly a shaft, and a terrifying clash rang out from the great silver bow. Thum! 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 Infection, disease, death. There's only one way to stop the plague. Agamemnon has to give the girl back. I won't give up the girl! Well, he's the commander-in-chief. No one's going to argue with him. So the Greeks call a grand assembly. All the factions, all the warriors, all the tribes gathered. And the meeting ground shook. And everyone's buzzing, like bees, because they're scared and they're angry and they're sick of the plague. And Agamemnon swoops in, and all the men are shouting, "Respect the priest, take the ransom, give back the girl!" And someone else shouts, "Quiet, quiet. The king of men, Agamemnon, is speaking." Silence. Agamemnon takes the scepter and rises. All right. I'm willing to give her back if that's what you all want. I'm not a tyrant. I can see it's best for everyone if I do. But bring me another prize and straight off too, lest I alone of the Argives go without my honor. That would be a disgrace. Well, everyone kind of starts to murmur, because there are no other prizes. They've all been given out. Someone's going to have to give up their prize. And then, in the back of the room, this huge figure rises. At last, here he is, Achilles. Now, Achilles is the greatest warrior who ever lived. I mean, he's bigger than Heracles. He's bigger than Sinbad. He's bigger than who is the greatest warrior living now? Well, he's definitely bigger than that. But he's not just good at killing. Achilles is skilled at the art of war. And you need to realize that Achilles he's superhuman. I mean, he's half mortal, but he's half god. I mean, his mother, Thetis, was a sea nymph. And he was raised by a centaur. I mean, all these amazing things, like he could talk to animals. He could understand them. Animals talked to him. We used to have this joke that one day Achilles was overeating and his horse looks at him and says, "Whoa!" we all laughed. Now, the thing is, Achilles knows that he's going to die here in Troy. I mean, he doesn't know when, and he doesn't know how, but he knows he won't be going home again. That's been prophesied. Achilles will have a brief but glorious life. I mean, imagine living with that. But this is Achilles. Here he is. Just how, Agamemnon, great field marshal, most grasping man alive, how can the generous Argives give you prizes now? I know of no troves of treasure piled lying idle anywhere. Everything we hauled back from the towns we plundered, all's been portioned out. But collect it, call it back from the rank and file. That would be the disgrace. And no, he shouldn't have said that. And all the men start to back up, leaving Achilles alone to face the commander-in-chief. You can't talk to me that way, even if you are the bravest fighter we have. You're so gifted. You're such a great warrior. But don't forget, you're half-god. I'm only human, but I will prove to you who's greater. What do you want? To cling to your prize while I sit idly by here empty-handed? I'll take what I want. Give me Briseis. Now, Briseis is someone whom Achilles won, fair and square. But he's not only won her, he's come to love her. I mean, Briseis is his companion. I mean, she cooks for him, she sleeps with him, but she's become dear to him. Don't give me commands. The Trojans never did me any damage, not in the least, you colossal, shameless. We all followed you, to please you, to fight for you, to win your honor back from the Trojans. Menelaus and you dog face. The men all gasp. Never once did you arm yourself with the troops, go into battle, or risk an ambush. You lack the courage. You can see death coming. Far better you find to foray all through camp, commandeering the prize of any man who speaks against you, king who devours his people. I have no mind to linger here, disgraced, brimming your cup and piling up your plunder. And he starts to leave. Desert by all means if the spirit drives you home. I will never beg you to stay, not on my account. But let this be my warning to you on your way. I will be there in person, at your own tents, to take Briseis in all her beauty, your own prize, so that you may learn just how much greater I am than you, and the next man up may shrink from matching words with me. And Achilles flies into a rage. He grabs the scepter. Now this scepter is a Greek tradition. Like when any of us want to speak officially, we take the scepter. It's like a talking stick. It's like the origins of the democratic process and all that, And Achilles takes it and says, "By this scepter, by this mighty oak that never again will blossom, I swear, I will never fight again. Let all the men die. Let all the Greeks be swept, not until, and let you, Agamemnon, come to me on your knees, repentant, blubbering, wishing you had never said these words. You can eat your heart out. You can eat your words. Trojan Hector will destroy you all. You dare to humiliate me?" And he raises his arm against Agamemnon. And all the men are staring at him going, what is he doing? And suddenly, his head yanks back. The men can't see what Achilles can. Athena has grabbed him by the hair, and she whispers in his ear, "Hold back. You can't kill Agamemnon." And Achilles says, "Why?" And Athena says, "Obey." He has no choice. Achilles takes the scepter, smashes it to the ground, breaking it to bits. Well, not exactly, but furious. "Not one of you in this assembly will speak in my behalf. Let's see how you do without me." And he storms out. And the entire Greek army is standing there. And Agamemnon's kind of standing there going, well, who the fuck cares about him? And he leaves. And this is the rage of Peleus' son Achilles. "Menin, aede thea Peleadio Achilleos." There it is, that's how it starts. It's infuriating. They take the girl to Agamemnon's tent. And Achilles wept, and slipping away from his companions far apart, went and sat down on the beach of the heaving gray sea and scanned the endless ocean. So the war rages on. But Achilles stays in his tent, waiting, fuming, and betting against his own side, the Greeks. I wish I could show you a photograph of Troy, but this is what it was like. Walk through the Scaean gates, and the first thing you see is a great plaza with a fountain. And there's water everywhere, little pools and little waterfalls, and every house has its own pool. And the sound of running water is everywhere, like a kind of music. And that music mingles with real music from flutes and lyres and singing. And as you walk through, you begin to realize that every house is both private and public. I mean, every house has its private area, but it spills out onto a common ground. And so as you walk through the streets of Troy, you see everyone. And everyone sees you. They'll often have events. They like to have their concerts and public meetings and performances of all kinds. And And there's a great sense of civic duty. And so they'll get together and they'll talk about things like, what do we do about the fig tree that's dying? How do we save the fig tree? And they'll form a committee to talk about the fig tree. And respect for the family, of course, the royal family, Priam and his sons. They've actually brought Troy peace. They've actually fought off invasions. They've actually given them a life that's stable. And so the feeling you get when you enter the city is one of great calmness, great serenity. This is before the war, of course. Now, the man called Hector, shining Hector, man-killing Hector, Hectoros Ipodamoio, Hector, breaker of horses. It's always so hard to describe Hector. His little brother calls him a sharp axe, a sharp edge, always cleaving forward. Hector believes in institutions. He believes in family and in country and in the army. And isn't it funny how hard it is to describe a good man? Hector's brave, but deep down, he'd rather be taming horses. But he's the eldest, the firstborn, and he's got dozens of siblings. And I mean dozens of siblings, like 50 or more, by different mothers. Oh God, I couldn't begin to remember all their names. I'd have to look it up. It's all written down somewhere. But one brother in particular, Paris. Every time that Hector sees Paris, he just can't seem to stop yelling at him. And with good reason, of course. Paris was the kind of guy who... Paris was actually able to make the argument that it was better for him to stay inside with the women than to go into battle. And when he did go into war, once, Aphrodite swoops down, picks him up by the scruff of his neck, wraps him up in a blanket made of fog, and throws him back in Helen's bed. And he stayed there. That's who Hector was. Paris, it was sort of like, but yeah, if I go into battle, then I might get taken prisoner, and then I'd be held for ransom. You'd be put in a really awkward position, and so really, it's better if I just stay inside and live out my days knowing I'm a coward. And you can't really argue with someone like that because they basically just made the argument for you, and you're like, but you are a coward. But he's just called himself a coward, so where are you going to go? Everybody always wants to hear more about Paris. Paris, tell us about Paris. But here's the thing. Paris is not that important. I mean, yes, he stole Helen from Menelaus, brought her to Troy, and started the whole damn thing. And yes, he was one handsome dude. But he's not interesting. Well, he's not interesting to me anymore. But Hector? The thing about Hector is he is proud. He won't let anyone else lead the charge for Troy. They have allies who've come in from all over, but Hector won't let them lead their own tribes. He's got to be in charge. It's complicated. He's full of hubris, but decent. Hector's a good father. He's a good husband. He's a lot like... So, on this particular day, the Trojans are struggling because the Greek army is full of ferocious warriors. Great Ajax and Diomedes. And even though Achilles won't fight, the Greeks are winning because Athena. Oh, the gods have made a mess of things. You wouldn't believe it. Athena actually puts on her own helmet and goes in to fight with the Greeks. She stabs her brother Ares in the stomach. He goes running to Zeus, and then, no, just trust me, it's a mess. So on this day, the Greeks, with the help of Athena, they hack and chop and decimate the Trojans, driving them back towards the city walls. And Hector and his brothers, they try to hold their ground, but they keep getting pushed back and pushed back. And Hector becomes afraid that the Trojan soldiers might give up and run away or hide inside the city gates. So he and his brother, they realize that they have to get Athena on their side. So Hector runs alone back towards Troy to ask the people to pray to Athena. His mother, Hecuba, catches sight of him and runs and grabs his hand. "My dear son, why have you come home? Why have you left the bitter fighting? Oh, see how they wear you out. But wait, I'll bring you some mellow honeyed wine. When a man's exhausted, wine will build his strength." "Offer me no mellow wine, mother, not now. You'd sap my limbs, I'd lose my nerve for war. No, better to pray. Ask Athena to stop helping the Greeks." And he runs on. And then, the face that launched 1,000 ships, Helen, sees him. "My dear brother, dear to me, bitch though I am, vicious, scheming, horror to freeze the heart. How I wish that first day that my mother brought me into the light, some black whirlwind had whisked me off to the mountains. But since the gods ordained it all, these desperate years, I wish I had been the wife of a better man. But come in and sit beside me, dear brother. The fighting falls hardest on you, Hector. You more than all. And all for me. And that blind, mad Paris. Oh, the two of us." But Hector doesn't have time for this. The only one he wants to see is his wife, Andromache, and his baby boy, Astyanax, who's maybe 6 months old. He runs to his house to look for them, but they're not there. And he searches for them everywhere, and he can't find them, and he begins to panic until someone says, no, they're in the tower, up on the wall. And Hector runs up there, his helmet flashing, still in his full armor. And there they are. His wife, Andromache, and his baby boy. Hector smiles. That's a rare thing. "Oh, Hector. Well, why are you just staring at us? Can't you speak? Well, what are you doing home in the middle of the day? Is the war over?" "No, it's a bad day for us. I've come home to start the prayers." "Oh. Hector, please listen to me. You're all that I have left now. Achilles killed my mother, my father, my brothers. All I have left is you and our baby boy. I am begging you to stay up here on the wall. Why can't you draw your army up by that fig tree down there where the gate is weakest? You know they've already attacked us 3 times on that very spot where the wall is low." "I can't retreat. I'd look like a coward. Even though I awaken every night in a cold sweat, dreaming of you, widowed, enslaved, and our baby boy." And he goes to reach for his son. But suddenly Astyanax lets out a wail. "Ah! What is it? What did I do?" "It's your helmet. Take it off." No, don't be afraid. It's only Daddy's helmet. Someday you'll wear a helmet just like this. You'll be an even greater warrior than your father. Oh, you'll ride a big horse, a black one just like mine. You'll fly on that horse through the air. You'll come home wearing the bloody gear of the mortal enemy you've killed in battle. Reckless one. Hector, your fiery courage will destroy you. Have you no pity for for him, our helpless son, or for me, and the fate that weighs me down now so soon, your widow. Why, Andromache, why so desperate? No man will drag me down to the house of death before my fate. And as for fate, no one alive has ever escaped it, neither brave man nor coward. I tell you, it is born with us the day we are born. But if you stayed up here, I have to go. Now give me a kiss, love. Now go home. And don't cry. Pray. And Hector puts on his heavy helmet and walks back to the front lines. Have you ever seen a front line? I want to show you what that bloody field looked like with all the other boys scattered across it, what Hector walked back to just then. I have a photograph. It's from a different war, but one particularly terrible day outside the trenches. I mean, this is 100 years ago, but you get the picture. And the field is just littered with bodies. And you look at it and you think, well, yes, that is a lot of bodies, but they're not just bodies. So that was Michael. And that was Paul. And that was Jamie. And that was Brennan. And that was Scotty. He was 18. He was 22. He was 19. Brennan was supposed to go to the University of Washington. He got a scholarship because of his writing. His father was a mailman, and he would have been the first child in his whole family ever to go to college. But he didn't. Do you see? But this is the battle I want to tell you about now. Because the women of Troy prayed, and those prayers seemed to work. And the Trojans begin to fight like never before, and still no Achilles, and that begins to take its toll on the Greeks. This is what the war looks like. At last the armies clashed at one strategic point. They slammed their shields together, and pike scraped pike with the grappling strength of fighters armed in bronze. Their round shields pounded together, boss on welded boss, and the sound of struggle roared and rocked the earth. Screams of men and cries of triumph breaking in one breath, fighters killing, fighters killed, and the ground streamed blood. Wildly, as two winter torrents raging down from the mountains, swirling into a valley, hurl their great waters together, plunging down into a gorge. And far away in the distant hills, a shepherd hears the thunder. So from the grinding armies broke the cries and crash of war, and terror, and rout, and relentless strife stormed too. Strife, sister to man-slaughtering Ares, Ares' comrade in arms. Strife, only a slight thing when first she rears her head, but her head soon hits the sky as she strides across the earth. Now strife throws the leveler hate down amidst both sides, wading into the onslaught, flooding men with pain. I never could find the right epithet for Patroclus. Son of Menetius, horseman. You know what I should call him, I suppose? Friend. Patroclus was Achilles' friend, his only friend. I mean, they were boyhood friends. Patroclus was sent by his own father to live with Achilles' family. He's slightly older than Achilles. He's good with horses. And he's practical. His father said to Patroclus, "It is your duty to take care of Achilles. You're wiser than he is. Counsel him, and he will listen to you." And so, Achilles and Patroclus, they were more than friends, they were brothers. I mean, really, they were more than brothers. I mean, they loved each other. Like when Achilles couldn't sleep, Patroclus would hold him, that kind of thing. Friends. Now, Patroclus is a good fighter. But when Achilles retreats to his tent, Patroclus stops fighting too. I mean, there was no question. His first allegiance is to his friend. But on this day, when the Trojans have gotten past the Greek ramparts and they've stormed past all the Greek defenses and they are just slaughtering Greeks left and right, and Patroclus is running up and down the beach and he's watching the bodies carried, only there's nowhere to carry them. And he sees that Agamemnon is wounded, and Odysseus is wounded, and the one medic is wounded, and he can't take it anymore. And he runs to Achilles' tent. "Don't be mad at me, but your anger is making you blind. Can't you see that Hector is destroying us? Is your heart made of iron? If you won't fight, drive the Trojans back, then let me. Give me your armor. They might think I'm you. I'll take that chance. But you are wrong. You will be remembered as a fool if you will not fight this day." But I swore. I won't break my word. I won't fight for Agamemnon. I won't fight even if the Trojans sweep into my own tents. It's not even my anger anymore. It's the thought of breaking my word. I can't do it. But you fight in my place? That's a good idea. The whole city of Troy comes trampling down on us, daring, wild. Why? Because they cannot see my helmet flash before their eyes. If you put on my armor, they'll think I'm back. Just the thought that I'm back will send them running in terror. Here, take it. My greaves, my breastplate, my helmet, but you must promise me this one thing. You will fight only until you drive the Trojans back from our ramparts, no farther. Do not push on towards the city walls, not without me. I promise. Can you see it? Can you? The young Patroclus. No, I can't help it. I always think of him as young, sort of too small for Achilles' armor, so he's kind of rattling around inside it. "Patroclus, oh my rider, straight at the pressing Trojan ranks you swooped." Now, first he does as he's promised. The sight of Achilles' armor terrifies the Trojans, and they lose their nerve. And Patroclus drives them back from the Argive ships. And then further and further. He's good at this, Patroclus. He never knew he was so good at it. He is gifted. He breathes in the smell of blood and bronze. He's been waiting 9 years to show what he's made of. And here he is wearing Achilles' armor, and he feels good, you know? Oh, yeah. Oh, you know that feeling? That feeling that for whatever reason you could kill someone. Right then and there, you could kill them. You could rip their head off. You could rend them limb from fucking limb. That guy in front of you who cuts you off, oh, you're gonna ram him with your car. Just ram him. You don't care about the result. You're gonna ram him. Oh, and you can see the charred metal, and you can see the smoking thing, and you can see that airbag, and you hope that airbag fucking smothers him. And if it doesn't, you're gonna jump out and you go, "You fucking idiot! Why did you cut me off?" Ah! Glint of a spear tore his opponent's chest, stabbing the right jawbone, thrusting the spearhead square between the teeth. So hard, hoisted, dragging the Trojan, fury bursting his heart, mouth gaping, flipping him down, face first, dead as he fell. Ha! Lunging in, he flung a rock, struck between the eyes, crushed, both brows. The skull caved in and both eyes burst from their sockets. Oh, nothing can harm Patroclus now. He's like a killing machine. Oh my God, Patroclus, like something superhuman. Patroclus and his men, hungry as wolves, they rend and bolt, raw flesh, fury bursting their hearts. They gorge on their kills till all their jaws drip red with blood, belching bloody meat. But the fury never shaken builds inside their chests, though their glutted bellies burst. Oh, it's a blur of kills. One man slashed, another gored, another hammered, another splinters, sinew and rending, stride, bronze ripping, split the belly, razor slicing. One guy cutting away the tongue, another cracked through the bony socket and wrenched the whole arm out. Impaled, more, whipped, more, slashed, stabbed, chopped, smashed, hewed, hacked, whole earth ran hot with blood, and red death, and it feels good. I'm sorry. I'm not like that. It's just that sometimes. This is why I don't do this. This is why I don't do this. And so Patroclus crowded corpse on the earth that rears us all. And then in the midst of everything, impossibly, like I never really understood what happened, but Patroclus' helmet, it falls off. And some of his armor falls off. And Patroclus gets shoved to the ground like some massive force hit him. Something hit him. And I mean, his helmet, it didn't really fit anyway. His armor didn't really fit anyway. I mean, even to put it on, he had to stuff rags in his head and rags in his chest just to keep it on. It's not his armor. It's Achilles' armor, and Achilles has like 400 pounds on him or whatever it is. So Patroclus, after all this struggle, he's lost his helmet and he's lost his armor, and what some people said at the time was that Apollo knocked it off of him. Apollo was on Hector's side, and Apollo just came up behind him and just went with his little finger, and his helmet went psh. And then Apollo went psh, and the straps on the breastplate broke and it fell off. So Patroclus stands up, totally exposed. And then from out of nowhere, this Dardan, this guy, this nobody, he's never fought before, his first day of fighting. He's done very well for himself, running up and down the beach, and he's killed, I think 9 men and knocked, 5 charioteers off their carts, and he literally just happens to be behind Patroclus. And he takes a spear and just right through him. Patroclus doesn't even really feel it. He's just like, the Dardan takes his spear and pulls it back out and runs away. And then Patroclus, the end came blazing up before you. Hector. Hector sees Achilles' armor and he makes his move. And he comes running at him from I don't know how far away, but he builds up a head of speed and he comes running at him and running at him and running at him. And he takes his spear and it went up his bowels. And the brazen point came thrusting straight through Patroclus' back. And Patroclus fell to the earth. And then Hector begins to rage. Patroclus, surely you thought you'd storm my city down and wrest from the wives of Troy their day of freedom. You fool! Oh, the vultures will eat your body raw. Oh, not for all his power could Achilles save you now. How he must have filled your head with orders, and you maniac, you obeyed. And Patroclus, holding his body together with his hands, Patroclus curses Hector. You won't live long yourself, I swear. Already I see them looming up beside you. Death and the strong-armed fates to drag you down. And death cut him short. The end closed in around him. And flying free from his limbs, his soul went winging down to the house of death. But Hector can't stop yelling at Patroclus, even though he's dead. You think you know my fate? Why should I fear death? No! Death is on my side. He is my brother, and together we will devastate you. We will murder all Greeks. And with that, he places a heel on Patroclus' chest, wrenches the brazen spear out, kicks him over face first, and begins to tear the rest of the armor off of Patroclus' dead body, savagely, awkwardly, crying out like an animal. Hector is a good man. He's a decent man. But in that moment, that's how it happens. We say of ourselves, oh, I'm not like that. I'm good. I'm peaceful. But it happens anyway. Some trick in our blood and rage. Do you see? A black cloud of grief came shrouding over Achilles. Overpowered in all his power, sprawled in the dust, Achilles suddenly loosed a terrible wrenching cry, and his noble mother heard him. This is what Achilles says to his mother. He is dead. And I sent him out there. It should have been me. What do I do now? I wish that strife could die from the hearts of gods and men, and anger that drives the sanest man to flare in outrage. Bitter gall, sweeter than dripping streams of honey that swarms inside people's chests and blinds like smoke. Just like the anger that Agamemnon, king of men, has roused within me now. Well, enough. Done is done. Let bygones be bygones. Now I will go forth to meet that murderer head on. That Hector who destroyed the dearest life I know. Wait. You have no armor. Hector wears your armor now. Sit here. Wait. And his mother runs to Hephaestus, the crippled god of fire, and asks him to make new armor for Achilles. Hephaestus flicks his hand, and tripods swing into place. He waves his hand again, and 20 bellows begin pumping and blowing on the flames, and the coals begin to glow white hot. Again and again he waves his hands, and tin, bronze, gold, silver fly through the air, plunging into cauldrons to be melted down for Achilles. Greaves for his legs, a breastplate, a helmet made of bronze, and a shield. The most magnificent shield I have ever seen. Hephaestus begins to fashion an immense orb, a shield as big as a room with the river of the ocean circling. He puts the earth, the sky, the oceans, the sun, the moon, all the stars. He hammers into this shield 2 cities. In one, a wedding is taking place. A bride is led down a hillock past trees to her nervous groom, a city at peace. The other city is a walled city. Outside of it, a siege is taking place, and 2 armies clash by a river. He fashions a field, large with furrows, and shows the horses tilling back and forth, and farmers being refreshed with great cups of wine and honey. A farmer drives his cattle home, and a lion attacks one of the bulls, and black blood pools at the bottom of the shield. A young boy playing on a lyre, heartbreaking music, a song of the dying day. Boys and girls dancing in a circle, and around them a crowd is clapping and cheering and laughing. This is Achilles' new shield, and it gleamed, with a beam that went so far out. Like when you're out at sea and a sailor has to look to land to get his bearings, and he hopes for a light. And you have lighthouses now, but back then we had, maybe one old guy high on a mountain tending his sheep with this very bright light to keep the sailors safe. And that light was shooting out across the water. That is what Achilles' shield looked like from a distance. Just bounced the light back and shot it out so far. Achilles dashed toward the city, heart racing, rushing on like a champion stallion, drawing a chariot full tilt, sweeping across the plain in easy, tearing strides. So Achilles hurtled on, driving legs and knees. And Hector was first to see him coming, surging across the plain and blazing like a star. I don't need to tell you, do I? The tide has turned because Achilles is back in the game. The Greeks are winning, raging, driving the Trojans back inside their own walls. But there stood Hector, shackled fast by his deadly fate, holding his ground, exposed in front of Troy and the Scaean gates. This is what he looks like, and this is what he's thinking. No way out. I could slip inside the gates and walls. Now my army's ruined. I would die of shame to face the men of Troy, and the Trojan women trailing their long robes. Far better now to stand up to Achilles, kill him, and come home alive, or die by his hand in glory out before the walls. But then he stops. Listen. But wait. What if I put down my studded shield and heavy helmet, propped my spear on the ramparts, and went forth just as I am to meet Achilles? Why, I could even offer to give Helen back. Yes, and all her treasures too, all the riches that Paris once hauled home to Troy in the hollow ships, and they were the cause of all our endless fighting. And that's what we've all been thinking, isn't it? Isn't it? Give her back! Yes, return it all to the sons of Atreus now to haul away, and at the same time divide up all the rest amongst the Argives, all the city holds. And then I will take an oath for the Trojan royal council, that we will hide nothing. Share and share alike all the hoards our handsome citadel holds within its depths. But why debate, my friend? Why thrash things out? No way to parley with that man, not now. Not from behind some oak or rock. To whisper, as a boy and a young girl, lovers' secrets such as a boy and a girl might whisper. Better to clash now, at once. And so he waited there, wavering. But Achilles was closing on him now like the god of war, the fighter's helmet flashing. The bronze around his body flared like a raging fire, or the rising, blazing sun, and over his shoulder shaking the Pelion ash spear, that terror. Hector looked up, saw him, and began to tremble. Nerve gone, he could hold his ground no longer. Leaving the gates behind, away he fled in fear. And so Achilles flew at him, breakneck on in fury, with Hector running along the walls of Troy as fast as his legs could go. On and on they raced, passing the lookout point, passing the wild fig tree tossed by the wind, always out from under the ramparts, down the wagon trail they careered, until they came to the clear running springs, where whirling Scamander rises up from its double well springs, bubbling strong. Past these they raced, one escaping, one in pursuit. The one who fled was great, but the one pursuing greater, even greater, their pace mounting in speed like powerful stallions. So the two of them whirled 3 times round the city of Priam, sprinting at top speed. And Hector never could throw Achilles off his trail. The swift racer Achilles, time and again he'd make a dash for the Dardan gates, hoping to rush beneath the rock-built ramparts, hoping the men on the heights might save him somehow, raining spears. But time and again, Achilles would quickly intercept him, heading him off, forcing him out across the plain, and Achilles running along the city side, endless as in a dream. When a man can't catch another fleeing on ahead, and he can never escape, nor his rival overtake him, so one could never run the other down in his speed, nor the other sprint away. And how could Hector have fled the fates of death so long? These are the scales the gods use to weigh the fates of men. Zeus weighs the fates of Hector and Achilles in these scales. And these are real, actual things, these scales. And down goes Hector's day of doom, dragging him down to the strong house of death. And the gods left him. No more running from you in fear, Achilles. Now my spirit stirs me to meet you face to face, kill or be killed. Come, we'll swear to the gods, the highest witnesses. If Zeus allows me to last it out and tear your life away, I swear I will give your body to your comrades. Swear you'll do the same. Hector, stop. There can be no binding oaths between men and lions. Wolves and lambs can enjoy no meeting in the minds. They are all bent on hating each other to death. So with you and me. Oh, if you could see how they looked at each other. What do they see? I wonder if he's scared. He may be yelling and shaking his spear, but when it comes right down to it, he wants to stay alive. Why? I can even imagine that we'll leave here now. We'll go somewhere and we'll get drunk together and we'll talk about, remember that battle, what was it, like 4 days ago when you guys had us pinned against the wall? And then from out of nowhere, our spearmen got your charioteer and you guys got thrown. That was intense. Yeah. And how about that bird that came out of nowhere? That was freaky, huh? Yeah, that thing just landed in the middle of the field, and for a while we were all just staring at it. Was it a heron? No, it was an egret. Oh, yeah, we call them herons. No, a heron is the one with the blue tinge to the upper wing feathers. No, I'm pretty sure we call that an egret. But no, whatever he may have been thinking, this is what Achilles said. Now you will pay it a stroke for all my comrades' grief, all that you killed in the fury of your spear. And with that, shaft poised, Achilles hurled, and his spear's long shadow flew. But seeing it coming, glorious Hector ducked away, watching it fly past, watching the brazen point stab the earth. Ha! You missed! The great god like Achilles, all bluff. Cunning with words, that's all you are, but now it's for you to dodge my brazen spear. Shaft poised, he hurled, and his spear's long shadow flew. And it struck Achilles' shield, a dead center hit, but glanced off and away. And Hector seethed. His hurtling spear, his whole arm's power poured into a wasted shot. He stood there cast down. He had no spear in reserve. And yes, in his heart, Hector knew the truth, and the fighter cried aloud. My time has come, and now death, grim death, is looming up beside me, no longer far away. No way to escape it now. Well, let me die, but not without glory, not without struggle, in some glorious clash of arms that even men to come will hear of down the years. And with that regard, Hector swooped now, swinging his whetted sword. And Achilles charged too, breakneck on in fury, and fire flared from the sharp point of the spear he brandished high in his right hand, bent on Hector's death, scanning his glorious body, where to pierce it best. The rest of his flesh seemed encased all in armor, burnished, brazen, Achilles' armor, which Hector stripped from strong Patroclus when he killed him. That's right. Hector is wearing Achilles' armor. My God. And so here stands Achilles, spear in hand, and he's looking at himself in a way, at an image of himself. And he's looking for the weak spot. And he knows exactly where that is, because it's his armor. One spot lay exposed, where the collarbones lift the neckbone off the shoulders, the open throat, where the end of life comes quickest. There. As Hector charged in fury, Achilles drove his spear, and the brazen point went piercing straight through the tender neck. Hector crashed in the dust. Godlike, Achilles gloried over him. Hector! Surely you thought when you stripped Patroclus' armor that you'd be safe. Oh, never a thought from me, far from the fighting as I was, you fool. The birds and dogs will rend you blood and bone, while the Argives bury my dear friend in glory. Gasping for breath, his helmet flashing, Hector said, I beg you by your life, by your parents, don't let the dogs devour me by the Argive ships. Wait, and take the princely ransom of bronze and gold that my father and noble mother will send you, but give my body to my comrades to carry home again. Beg no more, you fawning dog. Begging me by my parents? Would to God my rage, my anger would drive me to hack your flesh away and eat your body raw. Such miseries you have caused me. Ransom, the birds and dogs will rend you blood and bone. I know you well, and already I see my fate before me. Iron inside your chest, that heart of yours. But beware, or else my curse will draw the wrath of God down upon your head. That day, when Paris and Lord Apollo, for all your fighting spirit, destroy you at the Scaean gates. Death cut him short. The end closed in around him. And flying free from his limbs, his soul went winging down to the house of death. Now come, you sons of Atreus, and raise a song of triumph! Down to the Argive ships we march and bear this corpse on high. We have won ourselves great glory. We have brought magnificent Hector down, the man the Trojans glorified in their city like a god. And so Achilles triumphed. But now, he was bent on outrage, on shaming noble Hector, piercing the tendons, ankle to heel, behind both feet. He knotted straps of rawhide through them both and lashed them to his chariot, leaving the head to drag. Mounting the cart, he whipped his horses to a frenzy, and breakneck on they flew, holding nothing back. And a great cloud of dust rose up from the man they dragged. The dark hair swirling around his head, so handsome once, now laid low in the dust. And so his whole head was dragged down in the dust. If you'd seen it, the waist was just, it was just like one terrible hot day during the conquest of Sumer. I mean the conquest of Sargon. The Persian War, the Peloponnesian War, the War of Alexander the Great, the Punic War, the Gallic War, Caesar's invasion of Britain, Great Jewish Revolt, Yellow Turban Rebellion, War against the Moors in North Africa, the Roman-Persian War, the fall of Rome, the Byzantine Arab War, the Muslim conquest of Egypt, the first siege of Constantinople, the Arab-Chinese War, the Saxon Wars, Viking raids across Europe, the Bulgarian siege of Constantinople, Zanj rebellion in southern Iraq, the Croatian-Bulgarian War, the Viking civil wars, the Norman conquest of England, the First Crusade, the Second Crusade, the Third Crusade, the Fourth Crusade, the Children's Crusade, the Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, and Ninth Crusades, the Norman invasion of Ireland, the Mongol invasion of China, the Mongol invasion of Russia, the Mongol invasion of Afghanistan, the Mongol invasion of Vietnam, the 100 Years' War, the Chinese domination of Vietnam, the Polish-Lithuanian Teutonic War, the Hunger War, the fall of Constantinople, the War of the Roses, the War of the Priests, the Muscovite-Lithuanian War, the Spanish conquest of Mexico, the Mughal conquest of India, the War of the Two Brothers, the Spanish conquest of Peru, the 30 Years' War, the Pequot War, the First, Second, and Third English Civil Wars, Cromwell's conquest of Ireland, Cromwell's conquest of Scotland, the 335 Years' War, the French and Indian Wars, the Second Cherokee War, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, the Bolivian War of Independence, the Argentine War of Independence, the Mexican War of Independence, the Venezuelan War of Independence, the War of 1812, the Colombian, Chilean, Peruvian, and Ecuadorian Wars of Independence, Lower Canada Rebellion, Upper Canada Rebellion, the Second Seminole War, the Mormon War, the Pastry War, the Honey War, the First Anglo-Afghan War, the First Opium War, the Crimean War, the American Civil War, the Sioux Wars, the Second Anglo-Afghan War, the Boer Wars, the Cuban War of Independence, the Spanish-American War, the Mexican Revolution, World War I, the Russian Revolution, the Armenian Genocide, the Third Anglo-Afghan War, the Irish War of Independence, the Afghan Civil War, the Japanese invasion of Manchuria, the Saudi-Yemeni War, the Spanish Civil War, World War II, the Greek Civil War, the Palestinian Civil War, the Arab-Israeli War, the Cold War, the Korean War, the Tibetan Rebellion, the Cuban Revolution, Vietnam, Bay of Pigs, the Sand War, the Indonesian Civil War, the Six-Day War, Laos, Cambodia, the Troubles, Prague Spring, the Nicaraguan Revolution, the Salvadoran Civil War, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the Contra War in Nicaragua, the Second Sudanese Civil War, the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, the US invasion of Grenada, the US invasion of Panama, the First Intifada, Iraq, Afghanistan, Chechnya, Darfur, East Timor, Haiti, Pakistan, Lebanon, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Congo, Gaza, Somalia, Libya, Al-Qaeda, Turkey, Egypt, ISIS, Boko Haram, Syria, Yemen, Iran! Hecuba opens her mouth. Because all this time, they were all watching from up on the ramparts. His mother, Hecuba, his father, his brothers, Helen, all of the Trojans, watching Hector die. And all around the ramparts, Hector's family wailed with the grieving Hecuba. But his wife, Andromache, wasn't at the wall. She was inside, weaving. She hadn't heard a thing. Drawing a bath, she talked herself into the idea that he'd be coming home and he'd need a bath. But then she hears the women wailing, and she hears her mother-in-law's voice, and she recognizes that voice. And she has never, ever heard that voice sound like that before. Her heart starts to pound, and her legs go a little numb, and you know, oh, I know it. Something terrible is coming down on Priam's children. That's an awful moment, isn't it? It starts with a bad feeling or an intuition. Or why did the phone ring at 3 o'clock in the morning? Or why didn't I get a phone call? Or he didn't come home and it's late, it's really late. He should have been home by now. I should have heard something by now. The plane should have landed by now. He should have called by now. She starts to walk, trying to keep herself calm, trying not to panic, but her heart is pounding and she gets that weird throbbing and her eyes kind of start to go dim and she can't really see where she's going. And as she comes out on the wall and before she even gets a chance to ask a question, she looks out across the plain and she sees her husband dead, being dragged behind a chariot. And she begins to shout at him. only an infant. Think. What help are you to him now that you are dead? What help is he to you? Even if he avoids the horrors of war with the Argives, pain and toil will plague him all his days to come. Do you know what she's really saying? I told you so. Hector's body disappears in a cloud of dust. Achilles drags his prize back to the Greek camps and dumps the body in the sand by the Argive ships. The Greeks cheer and drink and celebrate. But Achilles' fury just won't end. And so he drags the body of Hector round and round the tomb of Patroclus for day after day after day. And the thing you have to ask yourself is, it's been 10 days. What is there left to drag? But you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong because the gods. The gods look down. And really, after all their meddling, after leaving Hector to die, they change their minds. They wrap Hector's body in a magic shield of storm. Zeus loves him after all. And so his body is perfect. It's unharmed. I mean, it's sweet smelling. It's impossible. So for 10 days, the Trojans are watching from a distance. The dust rising, the funeral pyres smoking, the Greeks cheering and drinking and singing songs of the triumph of Achilles. And so Priam decides to go, even though he's almost 80 years old. Priam decides to slog across all the battlefields to ransom himself, his kingdom, all his treasures, to get his son's body back. He sets off in the middle of the night with just one old charioteer. It's dark, and it's dangerous. And just as Priam and his driver start to get tired, a young man with fabulous sandals suddenly appears before them. What are you old guys up to? You're about to cross Greek lines, you know. You're about to cross into enemy territory, hauling a wagon full of treasure. You've lost your minds. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll help you. I'll show you the way. Priam asks him who he is, but the young man just goes, oh. They sweep across the battlefields unseen, past the ramparts, past the sentries, until they come to the massive double gates, so huge that it usually takes 8 men to push them open. The young man just whistles, and the gates fly open. Old man, I'll tell you who I am. I am Hermes, and I can go no further. And just like that, he's gone. Priam looks up to see Achilles getting up from the dinner table. It's like staring into the face of a deathless god. It's breathtaking. Great Achilles, you are surprised to see me here, an old man. I am Priam, king of Troy. I have hauled a wagon full of treasure all the way from my city. I will ransom everything. See how I kneel before you. I have endured what no man on earth has ever done before.
I put my lips to the hand of the man who killed my son.
You amaze me, old man. Get up, don't kneel at my feet. You have a father. Remember your father. Your father's probably suffering. No one there to help him. Your father needs you, and here you are far away in Troy. What would your father give to have you back with him now? I am asking you, as your own father would ask me. Give me the body. Let me have the body of my son. I never cried before I came to Troy. But in these last 40 days, I find myself crying almost every day. I have reason to cry. And so do you, old man. And they both begin to weep. Priam crying for his dead son. Achilles crying for his father and for his dead friend Patroclus and for himself. Enough. Enough tears, enough grief. What good will it do? I will never see my father again. You can't bring your son back to life. Give me my son. You took him from me. His body is rotting out there on the beach. I've had enough of this. Let me see my son. Don't make me mad, old man. You have no idea. The way my heart is, so full of anger. I'm sick with it, old man. Don't make me angry or else. And here's the thing. The part I love singing. Oh, and I hope I can make you see. Achilles, who is addicted to rage, as so many of us are when it comes right down to it. This fighting man feels the rage welling up within his heart, and he makes it disappear. He just How did he do that? Achilles lets go of his grief, and he went outside. And he lifted Hector up in his own arms. Achilles lifted Hector up in his own arms and laid him down in his father's wagon. Okay, it's done. I've laid him in your wagon. No, don't run out there now. I will have my men make a bed for you on the porch. In the morning you will see him. And then you will take him home. One more thing. How many days do you need to bury Prince Hector? Well, we tied to prepare his funeral. Our city is far from the hills. We would have to haul in trees for the pyre. And 9 days to mourn him. And on the 10th, we'd burn his body and have a feast. One more day to finish the tomb. 11 days. We would need 11 days. And on the 12th day, we could fight again, if that's absolutely necessary. Done.
11 days. I will make the Greeks stop fighting for 11 days. Put me to bed. And Priam reached out his hand, and Achilles took it and led him to the porch. And Priam slept, dreaming of the journey home. And Achilles slept, dreaming of his father. And the entire Greek army slept, dreaming of the next day's battle. And the sentries on the walls of Troy slept, and all of the Trojan civilians slept, and all of the Trojan soldiers slept. And far away in the distant hills, the shepherds and the farmers and the animals slept. And in the holds of the Argive ships, the slaves and the oarsmen slept. And even high on Mount Olympus, Zeus laid his head on Hera's shoulders, and even the gods fell asleep. I don't want to tell you about what happens next. I know you know about the trick that did it, the Trojan horse. How the Greeks pretended to leave. And the city of Troy rejoiced because they thought it was over, that the war was over. But that night the Greek soldiers snuck out and began the slaughter and the burning, the sack of Troy. I can't sing those songs, it's too much. It's too much, all of these songs. I won't. The song of the murder of Priam, the song of the death of Achilles, the song of Hector's infant son thrown from the battlements, the song of the Trojan women, all of them kidnapped and raped and taken to Greece, the song of Aeneas escaping with his father on his back, the song of Odysseus trying to get home. It's too much. All these songs. I mean, imagine it for yourselves. You know what it's like. The destruction of a city, of a civilization. It's like Alexandria and all that history lost. Constantinople burning for weeks. The Aztec temples razed. Dresden, Hiroshima, Sarajevo, Kabul, Baghdad, Aleppo. I will tell you this. Cassandra was first to see them. Priam and the wagon and the body of Hector. And Priam told his people of the ceasefire and not to worry, that there would be no war for 11 whole days, and they could bury Hector the proper way. And so they built a pyre for 9 days they mourned him, and on the 10th night they burned his body till the sun came up. At last, when young dawn, with her rose-red fingers, shone once more, the people massed around illustrious Hector's pyre. And when they had gathered, crowding the meeting grounds, they first put out the fires with glistening wine, wherever the flames still burned in all their fury. And then they gathered the white bones of Hector, his brothers, his friends in arms, mourning. And warm tears came streaming down their cheeks. And they put the bones they had found in a golden chest and shrouded them round and round with soft purple cloths. And they quickly lowered the chest into a deep, hollow grave. And over this they piled a cope of stones closely set. And then quickly heaped a barrow and posted sentries all around, out of fear that the Argive combat troops would launch their attack before the time agreed. And when they had heaped the mound, they turned back once more towards Troy. And when they had gathered again, they shared a splendid funeral feast in Hector's honor, held in the house of Priam, king by will of Zeus. Os oigan thiebon taphon, Hectoros ipodamoio. And so the Trojans buried Hector, breaker of horses. You see,